Richard Branson said, "You don't learn to walk by following the rules. You learn to walk by doing and by falling over." And chance favours the prepared mind. The more you practice, the luckier you become. I'm really looking forward to today's podcast with Sara Goode. Her journey is absolutely amazing. It just shows that when you get the mind right, anything is absolutely possible.
Welcome to the Talking Minds podcast.
Come join us as we chat about a whole host of mindset-related issues, giving you both the male and female perspective. Don't miss out on the exciting interviews we'll be conducting with some truly inspirational guests. My name's Marcus Matthews, and I'm a rapid transformational therapist whose quest is to transform people's minds to reach their own personal greatness.
My name is Tracy Carroll. I am a rapid transformational therapy practitioner, and my mission is to end the stigma surrounding mental health issues and show people they no longer need to suffer in silence.
Get going and let the podcast begin. Hello everybody, welcome to the Talking Minds podcast. Once again, Tracy is not here, so I'm going to have to tell her off at some point. However, we have got Sara Goode with us, who is another, I'm going to say therapist and coach, but actually you're a mindset and connections coach. So Sara, welcome. I knew I'd do that.
Hi, Marcus. It's really great to meet you.
So just to let everybody know, we connected through a Facebook page, which is run by Joanna Asprey-Scott, something called Cheshire Socialites. And I was basically looking for people to come on the podcast, and you amazingly got in touch with me. And we're connecting. And I've done my research, as I do, former cop. So I've done my research, and I'm really, really interested. I think this is going to be an amazing podcast, because one of the things that I think connects a lot of great coaches and therapists, and I think it's interesting how a lot of us don't use the word therapist or, coach. There's something that people don't like about that, and I want to delve into that a little bit. But often, most of us find ourselves on this path because we break ourselves. Would you say that is a fair analogy?
I would say that's a very fair assessment, Marcus.
Yeah, fair assessment. Okay, so I will shut up. So just tell everybody a little bit about who you are, a little bit about your journey, why you do what you do, kind of what your thing is, because I want anybody who's listening to this to really connect to who you are as a person. So I will let you do your thing. So just tell me a little bit about you and what you've done, and a bit about your story and where you got to now.
Okay, well, my story is a long one, but I will cut it a little bit shorter for these purposes. I had quite a traumatic childhood, suffered some chronic illnesses, which really affected all of my life. But the biggest thing was that in 2015, through treatment for one of these chronic illnesses, I found myself in intensive care on full life support for quite a long time. I was on full life support for about a month and in hospital for a total of 5 months. Now, as many people do when they go through those type of life events, it affected me, not just physically. I mean, the physical difficulties are quite obvious and people are quite prepared for that. But what I wasn't prepared for was the level of mental and emotional trauma that I had been through. And that process really, I had some brain damage, I had memory issues, but above all, I struggled with PTSD, which took quite a long time to even recognize that that's what it was, because I think people, you know, and you will know this yourself, people can relate to the symptoms when you describe them, but they don't necessarily make that connection to saying, that's PTSD. So it took a long time. And I was struggling through that process. And I eventually got some therapy. I had a really good therapist, and she helped me with some EMDR therapy. But that was really just the beginning of the journey. That helped me get over some of it, but it was a whole story. And I was introduced to NLP, the neuro-linguistic programming, and I found there were several strategies and modalities within that really helped me. And that led me on a self-development journey of really discovering not just why I was struggling with those symptoms now, but how my whole life and my whole programming, shall we say, from an early age actually made me more likely and more susceptible to experience PTSD, and that I had a lot more control. Ultimately, I discovered that I had a lot more control over my life and over my outcomes once I went through this self-development journey. And that's the reason why I coach now. That's the journey that I've been on, that I would like to help other people to discover that there's more that they can do for themselves than they realize through these techniques.
Do you know what? And it's so interesting that, and I just making up some notes on here, but would you say, if you're going to put a phrase, this is a phrase I use quite a lot, it's about the journey back to you. You're kind of finding
Absolutely.
who you are. You know, you're going on that journey back to who you are. And I often say to people as well, to clients when they're, and you'll know this for NLP because RTT uses, you know, there's elements of NLP in there as well. But what I find is that I say to people, you were born with Windows 95, but you're trying to run Adobe Office 365, TikTok, you know, and people they'll upgrade their phones in a heartbeat, but they don't realize that those bugs that people have been putting on the programs in their lives may or may not have served them when they were younger, but are certainly not serving them now. But we keep plowing on and wondering why everything crashes.
Exactly. And that's a really good analogy, because I think that one of the main points for me was actually realizing how my emotions and thought processes had developed from such an early age, and recognizing what those are and how they may have served me then, but in my adult life, in my current situation, they really had gone from being helpful and protective to limiting, and in some cases quite destructive. So you do need to really examine those things, and when you do, it can be quite a freeing process. You get back to, like you say, who you were meant to be.
Yeah, and I always say to people, and you'll be aware of this phrase about upgrading the child, and it's really important that when I ask people the question is, and I use this Bob Proctor. I'm sure you know who Bob Proctor is, but he has a thing that he says, you know, you have a house, you have a car. These are all things. They're not who you are. But what do you say about your hand? You say, it's my hand. So you're not your body. And I don't want to get all spiritual and woo-woo on this, but it's very true. Actually, the way we present ourselves doesn't really depict who we really are. and it's about stepping into your own greatness, your own courage. And I recently saw something posted, and I love this. And there's a difference between stepping into your brilliance and stepping into your genius.
Wow.
And stepping into your brilliance is about, you worked at HSBC, you worked in London, you had that lifestyle. I've lived in London myself. Everybody's there, they're working hard, they're playing hard, they want the cars, they want this, and they may be really good at what they do. But are they happy at what they're doing? Is that your purpose? No, I said this, I've just done a podcast this morning with somebody else. And I said, how many 5-year-olds do you turn around and they go, do you know what? I can't wait until I'm older so I can be a HR manager. It's just going to be amazing writing all those policies. You ask a 5-year-old what you want to do. They go, I want to be a ballet dancer. I want to be a princess. I want to be a whatever. Okay, you've got the traditional police, doctor. I wanted to be a cop. That's what I always wanted to do. But again, the realities of what we see and they're all formed by society. But people don't realize you can, if you want to be an influencer, if you want to be a YouTuber, if you want to be whatever it is you want to do, you can do it. But what is the purpose behind it? And I think we both have that same thing, that we led us to a point where we went, what is the purpose of life? What is my purpose? Why am I here? And I think that's about that journey of coming back to you. And I think fear is the thing that stops people wanting to conform, be part of the tribe, because the mind isn't there to make you happy. It's there to keep you alive. And, the majority of people are actually just surviving. They're not thriving. And abundance isn't about money. It's not about titles. It's not about wealth. Abundance is about feeling free, feeling peaceful, feeling present. I don't care what anybody says. You can have all the money in the world, but you can still be absolutely in pain inside. And that discovering that, just the discovering of that, I think is so freeing. I don't know what your opinions are on that. I think that when you go,
absolutely,
I can give myself a break.
I think one of the things that was really fundamental to my journey was when I first woke up and first came home after being in hospital. Because of that experience, I had this real vulnerability and fear of death, fear of what might happen, fear of the terrible outcome. Going through this journey and discovering, when you radically change your mindset and you can really fully appreciate just what it is that you are capable of. Do you know what my fear is now? My fear is not of dying. My fear is not really living. My fear is, it's not even not necessarily a fear, but it's a determination that I'm not going to get to the end of my life and go, yeah, it was okay.
And I've spoken about this before, is that, if anybody's listening to this podcast, if we look at our lives, if we're told what success looks like, generally success looks like this. We're born, we have a nice family time, and then we go to school and we pass our exams, then we do A-levels and a degree maybe, and then we go and we get a job that's going to give us a good pension, and then maybe when we're in our 70s we can then go on holiday and then live our life. So our whole thing is about accumulating something so that hopefully at the end we've got money to be able to then live our life in our 70s. And it's just crazy. And sometimes it takes these things, like with me, I was on the verge of suicide. I was driven down that path, and the mind is telling you all the time, if you want to call it a universal sign, if you want to call it God, but we're very blinded because we're so, the physical is so important to us, whether that be the way that we look, what we have, the cars, and actually, as I've started to look into this personally, and we look at religion and we look at politics, the whole COVID situation, is the psychology behind it is amazing. It's to keep people small. That's the reason why most of the wealth is owned by just 5% of the people, and probably only 1% of those people are actually truly happy. And it takes something. We wait, don't we?
Yeah, I mean, that's something. Yeah, you do. Yeah, you wait. You're waiting, for the promotion, for the big house, for the, for the kids to leave home, and you're waiting for all this. And then I'm going to concentrate on me, and then I'm going to concentrate on what it is that I want. Well, when something, and it's such a shame that for quite often for people, that shift, that pivotal moment doesn't come until there's a crisis point that forces you into saying, no, I'm going to do that now. I'm not going to wait. Tomorrow may not come. I'm actually going to take control and start living my life the way I want it to be now. And success is many different things to many different people. But one thing I will say is I know a lot of very rich people that are not happy and not connected and not really doing what they want with their lives. But I know a lot of people who are not rich that are wealthy in ways that, they are fulfilled, they're happy, they're having great relationships, they're, doing jobs that they love and that mean something to them.
Yeah.
And I think that, we're conditioned, like you say, that success looks a certain way. It is a certain thing, and we live in this very competitive environment. But I think this process that I've been through and what I try to coach others into seeing is that success is a personal journey. It's about connecting to who you really are and what it is that really makes you, you happy, really makes you feel fulfilled. Not for anyone else, but for yourself. And for those, and it has benefits for everyone that you come into contact with, because when you are coming from a place where you really love yourself and you feel the value that you were actually born with, that all that conditioning kind of stopped you from seeing, when you actually get back to the value of who you really are, you then have so much more to give to all the other areas of your life. And I think that's a really important part of the process.
Yeah, and I think that anybody who's going through that process, I don't know if you've done this with your clients, but you try and if you're listening to this and kind of connecting to this story, I'm feeling a little bit kind of, I'm not good enough, I'm different, this isn't available to me. I want you to go and do this. Stand in front of a mirror, and preferably naked, actually, especially if you're a bit body conscious. Look yourself in the eye and deeply, madly, truly say to yourself, do you know what? I love you. Try it.
Absolutely.
Because the amount of people, I know Louise Hay talks a lot about this in a lot of her books, but one of the things is that when you actually do that and you can say, do you know what? I'm good enough where I am now. Carl Cease, I've been reading his book on the illusion of money, and one of the things that he says is that success and greatness will only come when you're happy to know that you can give everything away, your house, your family, your loved ones, be completely on your own with nothing in the gutter, and still turn around and go, I'm going to be okay. When you're willing to lose everything, you'll start to gain everything. And that's hard.
Absolutely.
And that's why you were able to see this.
It is hard. And one thing I would add to that, I also encourage clients not just to look in that mirror and say, I love you for who you are, but I try to encourage them to pick out things that are really meaningful. When I look in the mirror, I look at myself in the mirror and say, I love that you always try to help people. I love that you try and try and be kind to others. I love that, tell yourself things that you actually really admire about yourself as a person, because those are the things that really connect. When you start to really look at the things that we spend so much time looking at the things we're not very good at, and we focus on the things that we're not. We think that the way to get better is to improve on those things that we're not very good at and focus on those things. And actually, I like to take people to take the opposite approach. Focus on what you're really good at, what you really enjoy, and master it. Get really, really good at it, because it gives you so much confidence. It gives you that feeling that then flows over and transfers into other areas of your life. Once you have that confidence, you can apply that to the areas where you feel that you maybe want to improve, and that it puts you in a place where you can really get to that.
I often say to clients, okay, tell me about what you loved doing as a child.
Yes.
What's that got to do with it? Now, tell me what you loved doing. I loved making daisy chains. That's amazing. Tell me more about that. And it's all about connecting a thing to a feeling. So that's what I do a lot of, but we're conditioned to go, oh, making daisy chains, that's just what a small child will do. But actually, if you can take doing daisy chains, you can make that into artwork. You could then sell it. And people go, oh, that's crazy. That's stupid. Why? Under whose rules? Who said?
Yeah.
Whose rules are you conforming to that says that is wrong? The most creative people in the world create things and do new things. If it's like I say, it's like Tetris. If you fit in, you disappear. So if you want to live a life of purpose, you want to feel that you don't have to be making millions of pounds or doing anything like that, but actually just that sense of, having that feeling inside you that makes you feel amazing, and one of the words that you mentioned, and for the people that obviously won't be able to see it because of the podcast, I've got my virtual background on Zoom here, and fear is the big thing. So I have this thing called the facts of abundance. So it's about, you've got to step through the fear, you've got to be accountable to yourself and others, and choose. You've got to choose what you want. You can't feel one thing and think another. You've got to choose, do I want this or do I not want this? And whatever the choice is, it's valid as long as you're happy with it. And then you've got to trust those instincts. You've got to go with what you think it is and then step forward. And one of the things and if you've got kids, or if you're a boss, or if you've got a team, we're so focused on success. So if you manage a team, if you're a CEO, even if you're a parent, so if you've got kids, I want you to try this. So when your child comes home or something like that, you go, okay, what did you do today? Well, I did it English. How did you get on? Oh, yeah, it was okay. Ask your kids or ask your team, say, okay, I want to know this week what you failed at.
Yeah.
And then congratulate them for failing, because there's no such thing as failure. Failure is only failure if you're not willing to look at that and go, well, where can I learn from that? Where's the success that I can get from that? I use this analogy, and I'll use the word manure, but if you want to grow an abundant crop, what do you spread on the field? You spread manure. The seed sits in festering feces to get the nutrients from that before it then pops up. And then when it pops up, it gets battered by the winds. But eventually it will grow strong to that. It'll learn those lessons. And the last thing to grow on the tree is the fruit. So you've got a lot of people, and I see it with a lot of coaches, it's like, I'm going to get you £10,000 a month, or, coaches that turn around and go, yeah, I'm absolutely, I never get anxiety anymore. I never fear anything. And I'm like, you're either lying to yourself and your clients.
Yeah.
When I first started coaching, I go on my Facebook group because, I've had a really bad day today. I felt like this really annoying. And people DMing me, go, Marcus, you're a coach. You shouldn't be doing this.
And human though, Marcus.
And I am a human, yeah. But I'm a real big fan of Brené Brown. And she's a shame researcher, for those people that don't know. Go on YouTube, look at Brené Brown stuff. She's amazing. But she talks a lot about vulnerability. And again, you can do this. Go on Google, go in a dictionary, look at vulnerability, and then look at courage. And you'll pretty much know that the description of both is exactly the same. Yeah. It's just the feeling and the story that we go, oh, that person's vulnerable, they're weak, they can't stand up, they're not man enough. Courage, rah. But I tell you this, as a former soldier, if you're in Afghanistan, you're being pinned down by the Taliban, you've had people dying all around you, and you've got 50 meters to run to get to a helicopter to get out of there, okay? You are not going, oh, this is easy. I'm a soldier. You are papping yourself. You're feeling vulnerable. Your life's on the edge. But the difference is you turn that vulnerability into action. And I think that this is where, if we start to come on to where coaches can help, it's about allowing you to follow a journey. So I always say a good coach, a good mentor is just a few steps ahead of you, and they're shouting behind you going, don't fall in the hole on your left-hand side because you won't get out. And that's why I call it the journey to abundance, because a good coach is not going to get you from A to B. If you go to a coach going, I want you to do this. A good coach will go, okay, tell me about what's going on. Tom Landry says that a coach is someone who tells you what you don't want to hear, who has you see what you don't want to see, so you can be who you want to be. And I think the biggest thing that stops people seeing coaches and therapists is that they're going to have to face their truth. But you'll have to face it at some point.
Absolutely. And you do. There is always a point in time where it comes where you really have to face that truth. I went through it myself. The realization that a lot of the things that had happened to me in my life were part of me adopting that real victim personality, that I had no control. I was never going to succeed at anything because of my ill health, and I was always going to fail, and there's nothing I can do about it. And I had that real I was a victim of life mentality.
Same
now
here.
When and then when I came out the other side of that and realized that that's what I was doing, and actually I had an awful lot of control, the first thing I felt was guilt. Okay, so I could actually have done something about it. But as a coach, the idea is to really help people to understand you only know what you know when you know it. And you can't go back and then judge yourself for not behaving in a certain way when you didn't realize that was, that you had other options. Now, but on the other side of that, when you do realize that you have other options, it's still your choice. I can't make a client go down any route. I can't, take them on their journey. That's their choice. That's their journey. Choice. As long as they're prepared to accept, as long as they're prepared to accept whatever consequences that may come from that choice, whether they be good or bad, that choice is theirs. And it's really, like you say, it's about, just letting people know where those pitfalls are, where those situations may come up, helping people be aware of them, and letting them make the choice whether they're going to really face them,
and also
not.
Giving them the knowledge that actually it doesn't matter if you fail. Stop beating yourself up. You make that choice, and if it was the wrong choice, it's just a lesson, because it's like anything else. Your stepping stone to success, you might be on your knees, got no money, and something happens and all of a sudden you're a millionaire. It can spin like that. It can spin like that so quickly. It can. And I think it's about building. I just want to quickly go into something about mindset, because I think this is something that's not talked about a lot. Because for me, people think about mindset as being like a thought process. I don't agree. It's not about a thought process. It's about a feeling process. So I'm just wondering how you look at mindset, because people see it as that as like a 5-point strategy. This is what you need to get from A to B. And I don't. It's not. Robin Sharma talks about this. It's not to do with mindset. It's to do with heart set.
It's not about your mental thought processes. It's about how they make you feel. We can all have these thought processes, and we can learn to, speak in positive mantras. But if you don't feel, it's always going to be about, it's getting out of your head. It's getting out of your head where your doubts and your worries and all those things that you've been told or you've processed through your life that make you, that you feel make you behave and do things in a certain way. And it's getting out of that space and into your heart and what you feel.
And that's why I talk a lot. As part of my coaching, I'm a big fan of journaling, because getting it out of your head. But I had this thing, I call it the 4 R's, but there's a W in there, which is write, read, reframe, and reload. So I have people, when they start to procrastinate, go, it's because of this, it's because of, okay, give me the evidence. I'm a cop, so I kind of go back to where is that evidence of that feeling? Who created it? And as soon as you realize you create all of your pain and all of your joy, There are no excuses. You are the creator. You know, you are God. I've said this in my last podcast, that once you stop blaming others, you stop looking outwardly for those excuses. You know, I went through a really tough time, and I blamed a lot of people. And yes, they didn't treat me well. They didn't do this, but actually, I'm responsible for me. And as soon as you do that, as soon as you say, do you know what? I'm going to take control. I'm going to accept that I've created everything. Not that I wanted it, not that I asked for it, but I created everything, and I'm going to do the inside work. This is where a coach and a mentor and a therapist can help, is to do that inside work. And this is why I'm not a great fan of talking therapy, because all you do is you're just, when we talk about PTSD, what I say to clients, because I, a bit like yourself, I don't say you don't have PTSD. If you have PTSD, you have PTSD. If you say, I don't have PTSD, I just have some symptoms that I don't know where they've come from, so I'm going to work that out, that's a completely different story. But as soon as you say you have something, you have it. And that's how I started my journey. You know, I want to know my why. Why do I feel anxious? I'm refusing to say I have anxiety. I'm refusing to say I have PTSD. I want to know why I have these feelings that we call anxiety.
Yeah, I agree with you.
You know, if you own it, you own it, and you'll manifest that. If you don't own it, that doesn't mean that you're not acknowledging, or you're not saying that this is happening and this is real. And I think this is the hardest thing, especially people going through trauma.
Yeah, I completely agree with you, Marcus. I think that, you know, Tony Robbins' quote is that he will always say that pain is inevitable, but suffering is a choice.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that can be a really hard thing to hear, but it is very true. I mean, I can look at being in intensive care in one of two ways. I can say that it was really unfair and an awful thing to have happened that caused me a lot of pain and suffering. Or I can look back and be grateful for the fact that it was that pivotal moment that actually changed my life. And my life is now better than it ever was before that point.
Yeah, so, and I would agree. I mean, one of the things that's quite interesting, because I know you're a fan of Joe Dispenza and Bruce Lipton and people like that, and environment, when we think of environment, we talk about our physical environments, but Bruce Lipton talks about, I think when he was a stem cell researcher in the 1970s, and he said they take a stem cell, they put it in 3 different Petri dishes, but then put those stem cells in different environments. One grew cartilage, one grew skin, one grew bone. And I think that's what's really important, is that when we're born, when we first start, actually we have that, but the environments that impact on us do mold who we are. They do, but it's not looking at that as from a woe is me. It's okay, I've gone through some hardship, I've gone through some hard times. How can I leverage that?
Exactly. What can I learn from this? What is this teaching me? Yeah. How can I take this and use it to move forward?
Yeah. Look for the lessons. I say that all the time. Look for the lesson.
Yeah. Look for the lessons. Yay. Exactly. Look for the lessons, because these things they have a habit of repeating themselves until we do just that. You know, we will find ourselves in the same or similar situations until we actually stop and reflect and learn what it is that is, you know, that we're supposed to learn from this. What is this teaching us? How can we use this to move us forward?
And I think this is where coaches come in, because if you're doing the same thing, you're going to get the same results. Now, you can go down that road and you can go on courses and you can do all the rest of it. But what you're paying for with a coach or a therapist, a good coach and therapist, is you're paying for somebody who's going to give you the hack. We all like a hack. You know, nobody wants to go through therapy. Nobody wants to do this. Nobody wants to do that. But if you can just turn around and go, do you know what? I'm going to start this journey. I'm going to do something. It might start with a book. I think a lot of us start with a book, and then it might be going to a seminar. And then, you know, and it's not saying that you want to become a therapist or you want to become this, but you've got to make that choice and say, you know, I'm an adult. I'm really stuck. I'm hurting. And I always say to people, draw that line in the sand and say, you know, do you want to stay where you know it's painful where you are? And the fear to move forward is that, you know, if I move forward, is it going to be even more painful? Well, you'll never know until you do it. But you already know you're in pain. So what is the choice? The choice is either you stay there in pain and you feel unfulfilled, and by you die on your deathbed going, I wish I'd have stepped over the line.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, and that's the thing, you have that choice. And I always say to me, I mean, it's interesting you say about, whether you want to become a therapist or not. I actually, people ask about my first client, and I will describe myself, because that's who I was. I was my first client. I was the person that, I had to figure it out through going through that process, the books and the courses, and, learning and gaining that knowledge. But it's like you say, knowledge is a wonderful thing. Strategy is fantastic. But if you're not going to actually take some action and do something with it, then you're not going to get the results that you're after. You can read as many books as you want. You can watch as many, self-help, self-discovery videos and courses, but actually having a good coach that will move you forward into positive action, that's what makes the difference.
It's about accountability. A good coach will make you accountable. That's why I said before that, they're going to tell you things. They're going to tell you things you don't want to hear, or they're going to go into those places and really call you out. And, I've got my own coach, and I think I don't know a coach who doesn't have a coach. I mean, a good coach has got a coach, because they know the value of what they do as a coach, but they're still looking to another coach, another mentor in a part of their life that they're not, happy with. So they'll go to another coach, and they see the value of that. So when you go to a coach, especially, that's the question. If you're going to a coach or a therapist, ask that coach who their coach is and what do they do and why do they go to their coach. If your coach hasn't got a coach, don't go anywhere near them. That's what I would say. Because when you go and see a coach who's got a coach, not only are you getting the knowledge of that coach, you're going to get the other coach's knowledge. Because I will guarantee you, if I get a client that I'm not too sure about, I'm not too sure, I'll go to my coach. Listen, I've got this client. This is what I'm doing. How would you deal with this? And then I gain that knowledge, and then I pass that down. So you kind of get a buy one get one free. You get a bog off offer with a good coach, because they'll be speaking to other coaches. They'll be speaking to other people, because coaches genuinely want to learn, and you learn more from your clients than your clients learn from you most of the time.
Absolutely. I mean, I learn things all the time from my clients, which teach me new ways of approaching things, give me new ideas. And, I think life in general is a learning experience. I think there are a few of us who actually think we know everything, and, there's nothing left to learn. And that's it. I've done the course, I've got the certificate, and that's it then. That's all I need to do. It's a process. And I have my own coach. In fact, I've got a couple of people that that I go to, and it's fantastic, because, and like you say, each person is helping the next one along, and it's that whole thing of just helping the person who's just on the rung of the ladder just below you, helping them up to the next step. And as coaches, that's what we do. That's our job, is just to help the person who's just behind us on the ladder get to where we are at this point, and then everyone keeps moving.
And I think if you look to nature for this, I've mentioned this before, that your mind is there to keep you alive, not to keep you happy. But when you surround yourself with people that are helping you on that journey, think of that as like wildebeest and I'm not saying we're wildebeest, but you're wildebeest in the savannah. What does the lion do? What does the shark do to the shoal of fish? It looks out for the one that's individual. It looks out to the one that's weakest. And that doesn't mean just physically. That means, you can be drained, you can be tired, and they will attack the weaker one. So if you want to be able to strengthen your mind, strengthen your body, surrounding yourself with a tribe, surrounding yourself with people, what you get when you pay for a coach is forget the word money, change it to energy. I'm giving you some energy, and they're giving you more energy back. So therefore you can run stronger, you can work harder, you can think clearer. They can keep you accountable. They're going to look after you. A good coach will do that. So when a lot of people go, I can't afford a coach, you can't afford not to have a coach. But again, it's really about asking those questions of the coach, and don't think that you can't I love it when people challenge me as a coach, my thought processes.
Absolutely.
I'm all for that. I proactively, when I speak to clients, new clients, anybody coming on, I say, do your research, go and ask people, come into my Facebook group, ask as many questions as you want. I'm trying to actively encourage clients that haven't had the best experience, mainly because they've not done the work. Put a bad review on Google. I'm really not that bothered, because I'm not after the reviews. I'm quite lucky. I've got 5-star reviews, but they always say to me, do you know what, Mark? They actually have that conversation. No, I'm not going to give you a review. It hasn't worked for me, but that's not because you're a bad coach. It's just that I'm not ready. For me, I'm not ready to put the work in. And I go, that is the best lesson. And that is amazing. I've done my job.
Yeah, but the thing is that what's great to me about that, and what's really positive about that, is that someone has admitted that they're not quite yet ready to put the work in, which means they're acknowledging that the work needs to be done.
Yeah.
And they know what they have to do. They're just not yet in the place where they're able to action that. And so it's still a step. Every step in the right direction is still a step.
And a lot of people are looking for big leaps, but actually it's the small. I say there's a phrase, I put this on Instagram the other day, is that, smart people build their houses of abundance from the bricks that people have thrown at them.
Absolutely.
And a mansion doesn't appear. You have to put the foundations in, you have to put the concrete in, then you need to build the bricks. And eventually this glorious mansion will come out. But you've got to be aware that there's a process. You've got to go through that process. You've got to do that, and you can either build the house yourself, or you can go to somebody who's an expert builder who will give you the hacks to go, well, if you do it this way, it might be slightly quicker. Or try this. And these are the pros and the cons. This has been amazing. I could carry on talking for absolutely forever.
It's been a great chat. Thank you very much, Marcus.
What I want to do is I want to end it because I always have kind of go-to phrases. I love my metaphors. I love that sort of stuff. So when kind of maybe you're going through that self-doubt, maybe when you go through that, that, am I good enough? Am I doing it? Or even when you're not, when things are buzzing, what is your kind of go-to phrase? What is the thing that centers you, brings you back to your purpose, brings you back to what you do? What is the thing that you say to yourself, or what's that phrase that you use?
I have, I don't know if you're aware of Peter Sage, and I read a great quote, and I love this. And it is, and I'll see if I can remember it word for word: theory does not cover the price of admission to the higher levels of awareness and consciousness. So if you want to actually get there, you've got to do the work. It can't just be theory.
And you've got to feel the work.
You've got to do the work. Yeah.
Our experience of life is about, it's a feeling experience.
Yeah.
We're here not to theorize. Interestingly, on ITV the other day, Eamon Holmes, they were talking about obviously all the GCSE and the A-level stuff and the BTech thing. And Eamon Holmes said, yeah, it's interesting, isn't it, that BTechs aren't put on a level playing field. But with a BTech, you actually get something that you can do. With an A-level, you just get a qualification.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. And this is why I think all the best coaches that I've met are people that have actually been through that process.
Yeah.
It's not just theory. It's, like yourself and myself, you've faced the struggle, you've found the solution, and now you're helping others. And that's what it means to me.
Yeah. Perfect. I think that's a great way to end the podcast. And I think for anybody who's listening, it can be difficult to step through that fear, it really can. But the thing is to stop making excuses. And, there's two choices: forget everything and run, or face everything and rise. We all have a choice, and it's up to you which one you want to choose. So thank you very much for that. It's been amazing. And
thank you, Marcus.
And yeah, I hope people like this. Please comment. This will be on Podbeam. It's going to be on Spotify, iTunes, all that sort of stuff. So we'd love your comments. and let us know how you think. And by all means, what is your website? How can people find you? Socials, website? How can people find you if they want to get in touch?
Website is Sara Goode. Good has an E on the end, so it's saragoode.com. You can find me on there. Same on Facebook. You can find me under my name. I will pop up in searches.
Perfect. So yeah, please connect. Let Sara know what you thought of the podcast. Get in touch if you've been inspired to kind of connect with Sara. Please do. And yeah, go out there, make your life what it should be, not what others tell you it should be. So thank you very much, and I think we'll end it there.
Thank you, Marcus.
If you enjoyed today's podcast, why don't you come and join us at facebook.com/talking_minds, and don't forget to give us a little like. Thanks very much for listening. See you soon.